Ready to get involved in the conversation now? Then why not give me a call on the My Voice in Power hotline on 07 493 82219. That's 07 493 82219. The Your Voice in Power Hour on the My Voice in Power show for Unity Live Radio. Hello and welcome to the Your Voice in Power Hour with myself, Natasha Brown, on Unity Live Radio. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Tired and hoping that there's not going to be any technical problems. Last week, technology was not on my side.
It always lets us down. Always.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Right. So can you tell us your name and a bit about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I'm Dan Wakeman and I live in Somerset and I'm currently messing about with driftwood and making some awesome sculptures.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it messing about. Especially seeing a lot of what your sculptures look like. So have you always been interested in making things?
Yeah, I've always been creative. I come from a creative family. My dad was a sparky by trade and a lecturer later on in life, and then a missionary very late on in life. My mum sews and does flower arranging, as well as cooking and cake decorating at different times. My brother's a graphic designer. So yeah, we've always been sort of creative and grown up in an creative environment of you can give it a go and see what it turns out like. So yeah, and then as I got married and family and budget, you always think about making that birthday present or that Christmas present for somebody rather than spending something you haven't got. So yeah, so that's sort of how I've always approached it.
Cool. So do you find that that's been beneficial, the fact that the rest of your family, especially your parents, have also been creatives themselves?
Yeah, it can be a blessing and a hindrance because they kind of see things differently because of their own creativeness as well as my creativeness. I mean, in essence, my brother and I would probably never agree from a graphic point of view. Some of the things he does I don't quite understand, and some of the things I do he doesn't quite understand from an arty point of view. We still understand each other, but it can be difficult sometimes. But then, especially with my wife, who isn't necessarily quite as creative, she is one of my best critics, and she'll tell me whether she likes it or not, and when to possibly stop fiddling with it.
So what's the biggest piece you've ever made?
Oh, the biggest piece. Well, I've got 2 full-size standing stags now.
Oh, wow.
Which are going to be in a local shop in Crewkern as part of their Christmas window display.
Nice.
So that's going to be really cool. I've got a very large octopus in the front garden at the moment, and he's currently on house arrest. Oh. He's not allowed to go anywhere at the moment because later in the month I'm taking that to the Mac Gallery in Birmingham because I was very honoured and privileged to be part of the Grayson's Art Club in season 3 and Philippa's Choice, and she came down and spent the day with me and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty big. That will just about fit in the back of a Vauxhall Vivaro van, upside down at a slightly jaunty angle.
Oh wow!
So yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah, and so that's amazing. You're going to be on TV again.
Well, no, that was aired back in April. Okay. So I've got the gallery, the exhibition is coming up, and I'm taking it up next week. And then there's the exhibition is from December to April next year.
Oh, that's a long time. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like being on TV? Because I feel like, you know, we met in a business club, and you've just gone from strength to strength. Like, it's been like absolutely amazing. Like, we don't see you on the Zoom calls anymore because you're so busy, like with your workshops, you're making stuff.
I will just correct you just slightly there.
Okay.
You don't see me on the Zoom calls because they're on a Wednesday at 10 o'clock when I do my other little element of I do care in the community. So there's a few little clients that I look after, and unfortunately that the Zoom calls there tie up with when I'm doing that.
Okay.
So it isn't that I am doing lots of different things, and I am very busy, which is wonderful. So I've been on TV a couple of times in different things, but this is the biggest one so far for me. It was lovely to spend the day with Philippa and the crew, and then I've done some work with the BBC. I've been on Spotlight and Points West News, and on BBC News website as well. So, I've done a few different bits and pieces, and it's been great fun.
Cool. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on here as well. Thank you.
No problem. My pleasure. It's lovely to talk and to share my journey with you and with the listeners. I've moved to a new workshop. The workshop that I had in my back garden was lovely. I built it in lockdown 1, and I've outgrown it. And it was just 4 posts and a tin roof, which was lovely, and it got me started. But I've managed to find a lovely workshop now. So I had an open event, and 2 of my clients came out to the open event, which was lovely.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really nice to see them there, and for them to put the pictures in context and so forth, and the things that I described that I was doing, and that all into context for them as well was lovely.
How did you get started? Like, what first gave you that idea? Oh, here's a piece of driftwood. Let me make something.
Well, I need to backtrack a little bit there to answer that question. I went through. I lost my father in 2014. He passed away due to pretty much not taking his heart medication while he was out in Africa, in Mozambique, as a missionary, and just sort of beginning to enjoy life in a different country. So as a man, I didn't necessarily deal with that. I have been in and around people passing in different ways in the past. I've been a first responder working for the ambulance service, so I've seen death and I've experienced death of loved ones and other people's loved ones. So I have a different way of looking at it. But when it's your own, when it was your own dad, I didn't deal with it that well.
Okay.
I buried it. And so that then popped its ugly head up in a different way and was causing a bit of stress between me and my wife and the family. And I heeded my wife's advice and said, we need to do something about this. So I had a little bit of counselling together, and then a little bit of counselling on my own, which, as a guy, just saying that you need help isn't a weakness. It actually is a strength, and it actually makes you, if you want to define it, it can make you more of a man than other people think. And those that don't think that asking for help is a manly thing, then they actually need to ask for help to overcome that, because it was in those sessions that the therapist, as we were winding up my sessions, she said, what is it you truly want to do? Because there's that, you leave school and or you're in university or you're in college, and it's, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I'm over 40 and I still don't really know what I'm going to do in my life. And that scares a lot of people, and it does scare me on times. And I've enjoyed what I've done in the past, but through that question, I had to answer it with the first thing that came to mind. And I just said, I want a percentage of my income to come from my creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hearing that myself that then gave me the spur on to do it and to go for it. And
you're saying that at 40 you still don't know what you want to do, but you're already doing something.
Yeah. And I think that's the other key is you make a plan. Doesn't have to be a brilliant plan. Doesn't have to be the right plan. Just make a plan and start to go for it. You know, there's a saying, you know, have a plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to fail. And that's not wrong. That's not silly. That's not stupid. That's not because you can learn from that.
Exactly.
And then you can adapt the plan. But if you haven't got a plan to start with, there's nothing to adapt, and there's no learning, and there's no moving. So you need a plan. So yeah, I'm doing something at the moment, but who knows?
And I don't think anybody really knows. And I think sometimes, like, even people who do know what they want to do, they study for it, they train for it, and then they find that actually they don't want to do that. So sometimes it's not until you put things into practice do you actually really know what it is you want to do. And like, as for like, I was thinking earlier when you was talking about, like, you know, asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. And it is. And, you know, mental health works in so much more of the opposite way than, like, for example, men who like to train at the gym. You know, they're putting all this energy into it to get their muscles, but not all muscles need to be expanded. And that's technically what you're doing with your brain when you store everything inside that doesn't need to be in there. You're expanding your brain, which is causing you stress, causing you to have a meltdown, and then in the end you'll leave yourself with no choice but to become physically weak because of how drained you are.
Yeah, you store and bottle those things up. That pressure will escape somewhere, somehow. And sometimes it's those pressure releases that then become vices that then can be, and often can be, more damaging than the original problem, because it can damage those around you.
You also run workshops as well, so do you find that you're sometimes using your experiences to help counsel others as well as teaching them how to make the things?
Yes, in essence, I go careful using the word counsel.
Okay.
Because I think that is a very, very precious skill that a lot of people think they have, but don't. And sometimes you can do more harm than good. So I'm very careful in what I do and how I do it and what I say. I'm more of a cup of tea guy or a whiskey guy. So if you need a cup of tea in a chat, or if you need a whiskey in a chat, then that's it. And I found that sometimes people just need somebody to just listen and not listen with the intent to reply. Just listen and just say that they're not necessarily looking to you always for an answer, because again, sometimes that answer is the one they didn't want to hear, or the one that everyone else keeps telling them, or the one that they did hear, and then they try and justify their behaviour because they said, well, it's okay, Dan said it was all right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't kind of want that kind of responsibility. So I go very careful, but the workshops are great because it is a safe space in which people can switch off from what might be bothering them and do something creative.
And just before I allow you to go and have your evening back, do you have any tips out there for any other creatives to help get themselves going?
Just go for it. Just go for it. You don't have to show anybody the result if you don't want to. But just go for it. Just do it, make a start, because until you make a start, you don't know whether you enjoy it, you don't know whether you're good at it, and work through what you're trying to do. Have something in your mind's eye. Realise from the start it will never look like that. Realise that in the middle it will look bloody awful.
Yeah.
And then it will then come, and it comes out the other side, and you come out the other side. Understand that process can be exhausting. Mm-hmm. Be careful of those around you, because that can change you while you're going through that process. So be mindful. But at the end of the day, just go for it. What you've got nothing to lose, and you've possibly got a lot to gain. I know from your experience that sometimes writing is all you can manage to do that day.
Yeah.
So do it. And you don't have to show anybody. You just know that you did it and you achieved it. There's one great thing, that if you have to be at work tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're there. If you work in a restaurant and your boss says, could you take the rubbish out, you take the rubbish out.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. Mm-hmm. When you say to yourself, I'm going to start doing this on December the 1st, I'm going to start uploading online tutorials, and December the 2nd comes and you haven't done it, it's not because you haven't got the ability. It's not because you possibly haven't got the equipment, because you could have got the equipment. You've got the ability to get the equipment. You didn't do it because there was a slight lack of respect for yourself, and that's that lack of discipline. So you've just got to start somewhere and then build on that. So just have a go.
Yeah.
Make a start.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for being my first live telephone guest this evening.
No problem at all.
You have been fantastic. I'm going to
my pleasure. Get
some music on for our listeners and let you get back to your evening.
Thank you very much.
If you would like your voice to be heard on the Your Voice in Power Hour, then why not get in touch with me at myvoiceinpower@outlook.com.